You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast, bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome everybody to this edition of the Fezcast. We've got a full show to get through, having Sunday's disappointment to discuss, a match by the men's team at Edinburgh on Friday, a discussion of how our guys got on in the Six Nations, and then, of course, the showdown to look forward to next week. In addition to that, we're recording this on Monday night, and Jez tomorrow is spending a day at the training ground with the men. And we'll have some interviews with anybody who hasn't run away from him, basically. So a lot to get through. And with me tonight, I've got, first off, Barry. How are you, Barry?
Yep, good, thanks.
And Alex. I didn't see you at the game, Alex, but I bet you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
And David Loxham. David, long-term friend of the Fezcast, welcome to you. You were actually up at Edinburgh as well.
Yes, I was. And, of course, I'm an old veteran of being wheeled out after major defeats, so this is nothing new for me.
Well, at least we didn't ask you to come on before, so we didn't jinx it. So, Alex, a great turnout on Sunday, almost 8,000 people, many up from Gloucester, but it wasn't to be because Gloucester proved that they were worthy to end up top of the normal season table. They are the best women's team in the country, and we are the best of the rest.
Yeah, we just couldn't get a foothold in the second half, and they just kind of ran away with it.
They did. They scored first, but then we had a relatively brief purple patch. We had a typical Jess Breach try. We had a penalty try, which saw one of them sent off, and then another by Lottie Sharp. And it was looking like it was going to be a rerun of how good we were against Quins, but it wasn't to be.
It was so lovely to see Jess in such good form. Last week, she proved that she is back to her best, and she proved it once more. She had a very good match overall, actually, amongst ours. The problem you have, I mean, Mo Hunt was the first player to go off, and she's massively influential for Gloucester. And to a degree, we did capitalise on it. However, if you look at it, what was it, 19-15 at half-time, we hadn't shaken them off. And the last 5 minutes was getting increasingly traumatic with the pressure they put on the scrum and our line. I must admit, at half-time, I was starting to think, I had a bit of a sinking feeling.
It was almost from the point when it was as good as it could have been, when Lottie Sharp had just scored a try. I think it was from then on that it looked like there was only going to be one winner at the end of the day.
3 relatively quick tries put us seemingly in the ascendancy, but even then you could just sense the way the game was going, and it wasn't one of those where we seemed to be constantly on the front foot. We took our chances in the first half when they arrived, but we always seemed to be a little bit second best. And second half, I mean, you've got to give credit to Gloucester Hartbury. They just out-muscled and out-bullied us, and we just had nothing left in the tank after that opening hour or so of the game.
I think you put your finger on it. It was out-powered and out-muscled. And that showed up as the game wore on. That power of Gloucester just wore us out, and we looked very tired from about midway through the second half.
Yeah, and I think we were starting to get desperate, so we were kind of trying things that weren't on, and we just kept giving them the ball, which didn't help, and then we were just trying to defend, and we just couldn't do it.
It looked like a lot of mistakes, but they were really mistakes that were forced on us by Gloucester, apart from the line-out, which I have to say it wasn't a good day in the line-out. But again, was that us being bad, or was it Gloucester being good in the line-out, or was it both, David, do you think?
Well, it's no doubt that Gloucester know how to impose pressure, but there was a key change, I thought, made to the pack, because Lou McMillan started off at the stoop with Rosie, and we were unbeaten on a run, and she was dropped to the bench. Gabby Senft was brought in where Georgia had been, and Georgia Evans moved into the second row. Now, earlier in the season, I think particularly one of the games down in Bristol, there was an awful spell where we had players running round in circles, and by the time the ball was thrown in, nobody was in the air. And unfortunately, we had a bit of that in this particular final. So I won't say what was notable, but I will say that we dared to change a successful formula, and I wonder whether or not that might have come back to bite us. There's no doubt that Gloucester imposed pressure, and so they ought. I mean, look at the amount of good quality England forwards they have.
Yeah, we didn't really contest many of their line-outs, did we? And at the same time, they were contesting all of ours and being successful about 80% of the time.
Yeah, not contesting, I felt, cost us in the first half, because there were a couple that really weren't particularly straight, but as we didn't get up and contest it, the referee was never going to call it unless they were sort of throwing it directly back to the scrum half. But yeah, for me, you've got to get up and contest line-outs. I know you risk chance of being driven backwards very quickly, but I think you've got to get off the ground and try and make a fight of it at line-out side.
And even when Gloucester got a yellow in the second half, which possibly could have been a red, I think the ref probably got that right. He said it wasn't a high degree of danger. It certainly was head on head. But even when they were down to 14, I was thinking, well, maybe now we can start to impose ourselves. Didn't really, did we, Alex?
No, I think in that second half, we just struggled to kind of get any go forward. We'd get a penalty and then we'd lose our line out or we'd concede. So I just think that that's something Gloucester can do really well. They did it against Bristol last year in the final, is just kind of dominate that second half, and that's something we definitely need to improve on for next season.
Well, talking of next season, what do we think is going to happen? I mean, Gloucester are losing their coach. I don't know how important that is. He's off to coach Wales, I believe. Is anybody going to be able to compete with Gloucester?
Well, I certainly hope so. Winning 3 times in a row is bound to take a little bit out of the side. And I'm just wondering how much longer Mo Hunt's Indian Summer's going to go on for. It seems to have been going on for years now. I mean, she's not only playing brilliant for Gloucester, she got a place back in the England side. There are 1 or 2 players who are a little bit older, but then I'm afraid you could say the same for Saracens now. They're at a similar stage of development. So I'm just going to bottle out of that question and say I honestly couldn't say. Bristol are the ones who strike me as a major threat. But, of course, it remains to be seen. And, of course, Exeter are now disrupted, who are also now without anybody to lead them in the coaching.
That's really strange, isn't it? The coach down there has done a really good job over the years in bringing a team together quickly. And it's a bit of an unexplained mystery. Any ideas what happened down there, Alex?
I definitely think she's not kind of gone to a couple of finals, not got anything, lost semi-final, but she's also built this team from scratch down at Exeter. She won a couple of the Allianz Cups, so I definitely think that she could have done a lot more with that Exeter side, but there's nothing really been said about why they decided not to renew her contract.
As far as the club game goes, we go into a long period now. I think does the league begin after the World Cup in October, which is one heck of a break, isn't it? We've got the Six Nations to look forward to, of course, which is great. And then we've got the World Cup. But as far as Saracens are concerned, it's a hiatus until next October. And you tend to get a fair amount of turnover in the women's game, don't you? Because there's a limited player pool and the best ones are always being lured elsewhere. So we'll have a long wait to see the shape of the team next season.
Yes, we will. And it's very difficult because Saracens built a very large squad, because you largely built a squad for the cup games at the beginning, which was in 2 major chunks. And then as a lot of these players really have had a very, very limited involvement, and that's inevitably going to sour the experience for some of them. So I think we've just got to wait and see. The player squad could be radically different next year for all we know.
I guess we just have to go out and nick a load of Gloucester's players just to make us better and them worse. But we'll see on that. Perhaps we might be learning more, because just a little teaser, the SSA are putting together an evening on April the 9th. More details to go out, and there will be a couple of, touch wood, you know more about it than me, David, a couple of high-profile women's players there.
Lottie Sharp and Kat Evans, one of our great alumni who was dragged out of retirement, played very well for Trailfinders women, I believe. And we're obviously looking to get Louis Johnson and Akina Gondway, the 2 SSA-sponsored players. So it looks good for Louis, and we're just letting Akina cool down a little bit after yesterday's experience, because it's good to say that Akina doesn't take losing particularly well, and she's, which is a great spirit to have.
Well, one for the diary on April the 9th. I think we'll take a break there, and we'll be back after to discuss Edinburgh, Six Nations and the Showdown.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hi, Alex Osterbury here, Director of Rugby for Saracens Women. You're listening to the Saracens Fezcast.
This is The Fezcast.
Welcome back. Another thing that we just want to mention is that the Women's Six Nations squad has come out. And Alex, I think you've got some news about that.
Yeah, so we've got a few Saracens players in it. Kelsey Clifford, Rosie Gallagher, Marley Packer, Jess Breach, Zoe Harrison, and also May Campbell, who's got in over Connie Powell. So hopefully we'll be seeing her a bit more this Six Nations. She's been in various, obviously, England training squads over the last couple of years, but hopefully it'll be nice to see her get a few more caps. Yeah, no Ella, which is disappointing, but hopefully, might see her during the World Cup, but unfortunately her form this season's let her down a bit in order to get a place.
She doesn't really have an opportunity to show herself now, does she, to get into the World Cup? Presumably the Six Nations squad announced is pretty much set to be barring injuries, the squad that goes into the World Cup.
There'll definitely be a wider training squad during the summer for England, which she might get into, and then it'll just be kind of trying to force her way into the squad by playing exceptionally in training. But I think after the World Cup, she might have some more opportunity to get in the England squad depending on who retires and steps back.
And May Campbell, our guest on the show last week, we might get another example to hear those very posh tones be a bit of a potty mouth again.
Maybe.
It will be exciting for Matt. He seems to enjoy that sort of stuff. One to look forward to. And starting this weekend, isn't it, the Six Nations?
England play Italy on Sunday.
Yeah, one really to look forward to. David, you made the trek up to Edinburgh.
I did.
Were there many who went with you?
A decent handful, because you suddenly realise that there's Saracen supporters in the north and northeast. They tend to show up for this one. So I'd say probably about the same number you'd get on a decent trip with the women away.
Right.
Probably about sort of 10, 15 or so that I noticed.
Yeah, well, you hardcore do a good job. So it was a high-scoring game. Theo McFarlane making 2 appearances, coming on and off. So I'm guessing that defence wasn't at a premium in the game, which is often the case with friendlies.
It started off in quite an orthodox manner. When we played at Edinburgh in Europe in 22, in the friendly this season, they seem to sort of give a concession to ordinary basic rugby for about half a game, and then they start flinging it everywhere in a sort of expanded seven style. And this was no exception, really. So there was some evidence of defence in the early going, and to be honest, they were getting torn to shreds on either side from half-time onwards.
Oh, well, that's good to hear, because normally, especially with the Showdown coming up next Saturday, big game in the season, a lot of players don't want to miss that. I would imagine that, the tackles wouldn't be quite as hard. But the big news was not just Theo McFarlane back, but I think what was a great surprise to everybody was to see Andy Christie, Barry.
When we saw him go off against Quins at the Stoop when was that? October? November? I can't remember now.
October, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. When we saw that, we all feared that, he was out for the rest of the season at a minimum. So for him to have come back, he must have used up all his luck or rabbit's feet or whatever. But it's great to see him back, and I hope he now can stay injury free for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. How long was he on for, David?
That's kind of difficult because there was so much rotation off the bench. I'd say he probably got 8 to 12 minutes, but by the time he joined the game, there was no grunt work going on. He just had to run around as fast as everybody else, and on the basis it was a leg ankle injury, he ran around as fast as everybody else. And what we forget, or what I hadn't realised, he's a massive hero up in Scotland. Although he's not been a shoe-in for the Scottish squad, the Edinburgh fans really feel he's been missed, and he would have been a fixture had he been fit. And they were probably just as intrigued and interested in Andy's fitness. And you should have seen the amount of people that he was doing selfies and signing for after the game. So, he's a bit of a hero up there. He did well.
They could have done with him on Saturday night, couldn't they? I mean, they did really well, but he would have helped them stay in contention with France if anybody could. That's for sure. Where I was sat for the women's game was right up in the left-hand corner of the East Stand, which is actually a really good view. It was really painful, though, because if you could imagine sitting in front of 3 very loud and very highly pitched burglar alarms with a West Country accent, that was my seat. And it was physically painful to be there, although good on them. They supported their team well. But right behind them was the bit where the players watched the match. And Andy Christie was there with Roti Shegan. Was he playing?
Yeah, he looked very good. He just did Roti things as the game opened up. It obviously suited him better. He was in a very good mood. I mean, there were a number of things in the game that seemed to amuse him greatly. I've got a nice photograph of him laughing his head off. So he looked in very good spirits, and he was in very good spirits at the end, which is great news. I mean, another one who looked very good on the return trail was Lucio Cinti, who scored a good try, and he was another one who was at the women's final.
And he probably really could have done with the rest that he's got, hasn't he? Because there's no let up for the Argentinians. Juan Martin as well was probably looking a bit sprightly, was he?
Well, he had a bit of an in and out thing because Theo McFarlane left the game very, worryingly early, just after a few minutes. And Juan Martin came on then, did about 15, 20 minutes. Theo came back. And then Juan Martin replaced him again with about 20 minutes to go. So he just looked his normal self. I always get the impression with Juan Martin, he's a player who likes to get into a rhythm. And it's difficult to get in a rhythm when you're chopping and changing that much.
Who was playing at centre? Was it Ollie Hartley and Sam Spink?
Ollie Hartley and Alex Wazowski.
Ollie Hartley's a bit of a favourite of mine. I like a Brad Barrett-type battering ram for us at 12. How was he doing?
Loz probably overshadowed him a little bit. Apart from being 4 out of 5 off the tee, Loz looked very, very sharp. He did the things that I was complaining that weren't happening before. He was carrying up and committing defenders, offloading well. He just did the things that he normally does very, very well. And he didn't look out of his depth when the game opened up either. He's up for that too.
Well, that's good to know. I think we need that bit of power in the backs, and hopefully he can bring it if he's picked with Alex Wazowski on Saturday. And I think Nick Tompkins is probably due a rest. We shall see. Okay, going on to the England performance, it was obviously a brilliant performance. It's come with the caveat that it was Wales, and let's face it, Wales are not a top side at the moment. But England showed the confidence to keep hold of the ball and not just kick it away and wait for Wales to give away the penalty, which was a bit of a change.
As poor and as hard to watch as the performance against Scotland was, it was fun to watch that last weekend. I will just say, though, there's something wrong in the world of rugby when Wales are that poor as they were at the weekend. They were just a shadow of any international side that you can think of in red over the years. There's something right in rugby when you have a strong competitive Welsh team, the same as there's something right in football when you have a strong competitive Brazilian team at a World Cup, for example. But I wish they would get back to a level where they actually provide a real test for teams, especially in Cardiff.
There's a lot of theories going round about that. I mean, quite clearly, with all of the rather nasty stories that have surrounded the top management of Welsh rugby, there's something wrong there. And I think they've shown that, they're probably even worse than the RFU in terms of being capable of making good decisions. The last Netflix series about the Six Nations, which was, of course, last year's Six Nations, you could see that Warren Gatland was almost a broken man. He seemed a man totally devoid of confidence and making some pretty silly decisions in drafting in a team full of kids for the Six Nations and ignoring people like George North, which, was a recipe for the disaster that it turned out to be. And then there's a big question of whether Wales can support 4 club/regional teams and whether the URC is the right competition to play in, or whether they really desperately need to form an Anglo-Welsh league if they can and take part in it.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and let's be honest, the RFU and the Welsh Rugby Union have neck and neck, if you like, for appalling decisions. Interesting to see that the announcement about Twickenham that's come out over the weekend, and they are staying and they are going to reduce the capacity to fix the roof. That will be the roof that they buggered up in 2015 by trying to put in extra hospitality seats for the World Cup, of course, but that's another story. It's terrible to see the state of both the organisational bodies and what the future holds. We don't know. We still don't know what the Championship's going to be like next season, do we? And we're now accelerating through March, for heaven's sake.
Rugby's not set up to make good management decisions, that's for sure. Did you see the England game, Alex?
Yeah, I did. I think that's really good for the team's confidence to know that yes, it was against a really bad Welsh team, but that we can get those kind of wins and it's not close margins and we can do that. And hopefully we can take that confidence going forward into the summer and kind of just build on that.
For me, talking from a Saracens perspective, a lot of good things there. But the main one is that Ben Earl seems to be back to his best. I'm not sure that in the league for Saracens he has been leading up to the Six Nations, and he wasn't at his best in the autumn series either. But he's been one of the standout players for me in the Six Nations.
Yeah, he's suddenly very noticeable again, isn't he? I mean, there come a stage in the club games where you start to feel he become a bit anonymous, but he certainly hasn't been that in this particular series. The other thing, from a Saracens point of view, I just think that Maro Itoje's captaincy just shows greater maturity. You look at the careful way that he managed the referee. I mean, we sort of think about the case when Owen Farrell is going to shout at the referee. Maro goes over and properly asks him with a quizzical look on his face, admittedly, but the fact is he asks the question and he asks it in a sort of quiet and intelligible sort of voice, and he got the review at the right time, didn't he? There was a point in that game I thought Andrew Jackson was the busiest person in the stadium, just about. And I'll just hark back to your point about Warren Gatland. I think his ill-fated spell in New Zealand club rugby had broken him far before he came back to Wales. And it's a poison chalice now, isn't it?
You are totally right about Maro's captaincy. There was a lot of doubts in many quarters about whether he would be, but he has that presence. He has the physical presence. When he marches up to the referee, it's Martin Johnson, that's the one. In his own but different way, he's got that sort of presence when he marches up to the referee. As you say, David, he just conducts himself in exactly the right way, so that combination of that physical presence, his aura, the referees find it hard to go against him. And he's got to be, I would have thought, Barry, the leading contender for the Lions captain. He's
certainly got to be in there. And I'm one of those people that needs to hold their hands up because I wasn't sure about him as captain at Saracens this season. But he's certainly answered those questions. And it's not affected his game. He's back to his best, or certainly was at the weekend. He's not letting that captaincy affect him the way it's affected other people over the years. And it's just great to see. And he's certainly, long may he continue to ride the crest of this particular wave. But he's in form, he's captaining well, he's playing well, and it'll be great to see him back in black, hopefully, at the weekend.
I think that's a very important point because Sam Warburton is very interesting in this in the past. That he was saying the biggest pressure comes as captain is that sometimes you just want to look after yourself. You just want to do what you need to do during the week to be good at the weekend. But as captain, you can't do that. And then you layer on top all of the sponsorship, all of the interviews that you have to do. And that's the pressure of being captain, is you can't just think of yourself. I think it's been for a while now. He's been in his old imperious form. He's been, grabbing the ball when he doesn't deserve to get it. And he's just been brilliant. The unsung hero for me of the England Six Nations team, whether he's playing at fullback, wing or centre, has been Elliot Daly, Alex. And once again, he's showing whether he is old enough to be said to be having an Indian summer, whatever it is, he's really at the top of his game at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that versatility really helps whatever position he's playing in because he has that skill set. So if he's on the wing, he kind of still has that mindset of a centre or a fullback. And that's just really helped him kind of cover positions and just kind of do what needs to be done wherever he's playing. And that's really helped to have a good Six Nations.
Yeah, it really was a game that was set up for him, although it's not the first great game that he's had. He scored the crucial try against France, for instance, because you always maybe waiting a bit for the defensive howler with Elliot, but going forward, I think he's one of the best fullbacks in the country.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, the game where he had to sort of revert from fullback for Marcus Smith to come off the bench, I actually thought we were doing far better with him at fullback, although he obviously did very well as a makeshift centre. And I thought Borthwick might have put him back there, but it is what it happened. But I mean, from the very first game, from the very first friendly of the season, he was the one player who hit the ground running, along with Andy Onyama Christie. Now, Andy obviously was curtailed by injuries we've discussed, but Elliot has been outstanding from the very beginning of the season, and he just hasn't fallen off that level of quality. He's a mature player now. He has a good all-round skill set, and he can play pretty much anywhere, and he's not going to let the team down. He's been there, done it, seen it. and he's still athletic enough to make things count.
Just before he left, we had a purple patch with Max Mailings on the wing, Elliot Daly at full back, and Faz pulling the strings. And the three of those were absolutely devastating. It was when we were at our height of playing Harlem Globetrotters type rugby at the time. And I think those three were the key. So it's going to be interesting to see next season with Max Mailings back, I assume on the wing and not full back, because I still think Elliot Daly is a better full back, and whether one or other of our fly halves can step up and create that triumvirate that we had before.
Well, yeah, I mean, throw into that mix as well Liam Williams. We don't know what his future will be beyond the end of the season, and we could be looking very, very, very strong in those back three positions with Timi Shegan and everyone else in there as well. So, but I think Alex picked up on Elliot's versatility, and that is the one thing that we've really seen at Saracens. He will play virtually anywhere, and he'll do a job for you almost wherever you ask him to fill in on the pitch.
I actually think that Steve Borthwick made a good decision starting with the Twindaloo brothers and Ben Earl, because, boy, they are a powerful and mobile threesome. And Tom Willis is a great impact player to come on.
Yeah, and I think it really worked, and kind of having that back row who's going to give you the power in the scrum and also give you what you need in the loose is really important, and they could just really do that. And then Tom Willis coming on kind of gave England the impact that it needed to kind of keep the momentum going.
I don't think it's just because I've got Saracens coloured glasses on, David, but I'm still a bit puzzled as to why Theo Dan isn't making the squad. He's not injured, is he?
No, he's not fully fit yet.
Oh.
So no, I mean it's nothing sinister about that whatsoever. But I mean, picking up on Alex's point, I mean, if you're out there on the field and you're tiring, do you honestly want to see Tom Willis coming at you?
You really don't. I mean, it's got that sort of Will Skelton feel about it with Tom Willis coming on at 50 or 60 minutes, isn't it? You know, I used to think it was rather unfair when we had Will Skelton coming on at 60 minutes. It
was unfair to Gareth Steenson, if anybody.
Just a little note to our listeners: if ever you're feeling a little bit fed up and you want to giggle, just Google Will Skelton and Gareth Steenson if you've not seen it. Watch it on YouTube. It is the funniest thing you've ever seen, and the commentary is brilliant as well.
It's one of the highlights of the whole history of the Premiership, isn't it? To see it, how far does he bounce back? Absolutely brilliant. So I think we've done the Six Nations, and we've got real excitement in the air, because after the usual annual layoff of about 6.5 decades, the Premiership is back next Saturday, and been a long wait, and it's going to be very exciting. Watching the episode of The Huddle that came on at the week, it just really struck me how different this year's team is to last year. You know, looking at Alex Lewington, Sean Maitland, Faz, the Vunipola brothers, it really struck me as how different the team is this year, Alex.
Yeah, and I think that's something that they can either really capitalise on, or it's going to cause them a lot of problems, because you don't have so many players who've played on that big stage if they're not internationals. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of cope under the pressure of a bigger stage than playing at the Stone X. But I think it's also something they can really capitalise on. Not that Harlequins will underestimate them, but they won't necessarily know what to expect. Whereas if it's in previous years, you kind of know what you're getting from those players, even if it's really high quality.
Yeah, that's true. There's going to be a lot of players for whom a big stage like that, it's first time for them. And unfortunately, it can't possibly be as good as last year, can it, David?
Oh, of course it can always be that. And, I came back from Edinburgh where it was 40-54. I mean, it was like a basketball game. So I lost track of the score on a couple of occasions, and it tripped up Saracens media a time or two as well, and my friends there. But I was very remiss, I mean, particularly when Barry mentioned fullbacks and wingers. The fullback in the Edinburgh game was Tobias Elliott, who just happened to score a hat-trick, and he looked absolutely blistering. I mean, he's got such deceptive power. He's quite hard to get to the ground. He's very, very powerful in the carrying. Boy, he's fast, and that sidestep, whichever way he chooses to go. Just to add him into that, the riches in wingers, fullback, that's the best game he's played at fullback by far. And as I say, some of it was like a normal rugby game where he had to do normal fullback things. But of course, when it opened up and became wild, that suited him down to the ground.
First time I ever saw him play was as fullback for Ampthill. And like then, when he's given the whole pitch to play with and the time to decide where he wants to go, this season, we've often complained that the way we played, the ball has reached him late on the wing and he's been surrounded by 3 players by the time he gets there. But when he's got that space, I can imagine he can be as good there as Elliot Daly is. We've just got millions of wingers, haven't we? The young ones, they are really good. The big question for me, Barry, is we've moaned a little about Saracens in attack this season, but we saw especially the last Premiership Cup game against Quins, it seemed to be turning round. Are we going to see a good attack is the question, isn't it?
Looking at the weather, it's all going to be set up for an open attacking game on Saturday, and let's hope it is. I hope Fergus Burke is on form, assuming he's picked a course, and I just hope that we can get the ball wide and really put on a spectacle for the people that are there. I have to be honest, Tottenham Stadium isn't my favourite journey of the season because it just takes forever to walk there, but and then walk back again afterwards. But it's a fantastic stadium. It is a big day out. There's over 50,000 tickets sold already, and let's just hope that we can put on a show, and let's hope that Harlequins do as well. For as enjoyable as last season's game was, it was a bit like the England-Wales one. It was a little bit one-sided and it was kind of over as a contest after 25, 30 minutes. So let's hope that they show up. But we will be missing, of course, Big Joe Marler. And without Joe, will the referee be able to count when he says use it?
They also lost a big lock who plays for Italy. I think his surname's Lamb. I assume they've lost him. He went off looking pretty injured on Saturday. So let's hope that affects them. It would be always uncharitable to say so, but it's always good to beat them. So lots to look forward to this week. Excitement's going to be building, and we're going to take a break there. Just before we hand over to Jez, I'd like to say good luck to Colin Garrett from the SSA. He's just been in hospital in the wars a little bit, and we hope you recover well, Colin, and even make it next weekend. So we'll take a break there, and after the break, we'll be back with Jez and see who he's managed to speak to.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, here we are at Old Albanians Rugby Club for a Saracens training session, and the first person I've got a chance to speak to is Sam Spink. And Sam, welcome to the Fezcast.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Now, you're not out on the training field. Does that, I take that, we're carrying a little bit of an injury at the moment, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just coming out to watch the boys. Sadly, another hamstring knock last week. So still on the road to recovery, bit of rehab for the next few weeks, but hopefully not too long till I'm back out there.
Well, that's good to hear, Sam. I mean, the first thing to say is it's your first season with the club. How are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been class. I think as far as the club and the boys and working with the coaches has been amazing, and it's an incredible environment to be a part of. Sadly, a little bit more time spent with physios, come in with a long-term injury, but we managed to get that sorted. But yeah, a bit of a battle of a season body-wise for me, but no, I can't fault the environment. I've loved to get to know all the guys and the coaches, and yeah, just looking forward to hopefully fitter days ahead and can put some work on the pitch as well as just enjoying the environment.
From your experience, you've come over from spending some time out in the Southern Hemisphere. What's the differences other than the weather, which is pretty breezy today, but obviously sunshine down in Australia, but how's it changed? How's it different here?
Yeah, I think people probably underestimate the conditions a bit. I think we see score lines down there from Super Rugby come out and people think it's optional D is the sort of phrase that gets thrown around, when actually a lot of the time it's just playing in really nice conditions and sunny days and sunny afternoons that boys can chuck a ball around and the attacking sort of flow of rugby gets to be seen in all its glory. But compared to your sort of gritty winter days here where you might get some tighter fixtures and it comes down to hard defence that sort of wins you games. But my job stayed very similar. I just tried to get my hands on the ball and be a threat in attack and make good reads and sort of defend as well as I can out in the wider channels. So yeah, as far as the cliche goes around structure and kicking up here and more flowing and offloading rugby down there, I think there's parts to that. But for me, my role stayed very similar and I was able to enjoy just trying to bring that to my team every week. But yeah, I think just ultimately a bit more of a summer sport down there, which is nice.
Well, absolutely. We'd all enjoy that, wouldn't we? I mean, but coming to Saracens, what's the one thing that you've perhaps learned and developed more this year than perhaps and has added to your game?
Oh, look, coming to a squad like Saracens, this is no disrespect to other squads that I've been a part of, it's just a pretty competitive environment and there's talent in every position, everywhere you look, internationals, whatever it is, guys with some serious experience to learn from the older guys. And yeah, I think just competing every day, I'm back on a sort of in a position where I need to sort of fight for a starting shirt or try and get my way into the team, which I haven't been in a while. So yeah, it's back to square one a bit and back to hard work to try and get myself back into the team. And as far as an environment goes, different to what I've had before, which I didn't realise about the club, but it's got a massive ethos around treating people well. And if we do that, then we expect a certain effort back. And compared to other environments I've been in, I've loved that because that's certainly how I would want to be part of a squad that I would want to be a part of, an environment I'd want to be a part of. And it would certainly get the best out of me. So I've enjoyed being treated well and hopefully the effort has been sort of reciprocated in that sense.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, obviously this week is a big week. The Showdown's coming down back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I'm a West Ham supporter, so, you know, I have issues with that. But I mean, no. How's the build-up to that? We've had a few weeks off from domestic rugby, obviously, with the Six Nations going on and Prem Cup going on, which we weren't involved in. How's the build-up been? How's the expectation around the squad about going out in a fantastic stadium? Yeah. I mean, as much as that hurts me to say it, but I mean, how's it been this in the last couple of weeks, and how's it ramping up this week?
Certainly ramping up. I think the timing of it is incredible, sort of with regards to the Six Nations coming to the end and the injection of energy we get from a lot of those boys coming back anyway. The fact it falls on such a big game for us as a club is great. I think it's a fixture that boys eye up and you sort of pencil and highlight from the start of the year. You know, boys would eye it up from pre-season, talk about local derbies, rivalries, the chance to do it in front of 60,000 fans. Yeah, I think something that we've been excited for a long time. And then, of course, like anything, it just flies by and suddenly you're there. It's game week and the boys will go and do the normal prep like we would do for any game. But yeah, there'll be a certain buzz about us towards the end of the week. They'll be ramping up for it and hopefully go and do a job on Quince.
Well, absolutely, Sam. And we'll get a chance to say to the guys, yeah, you'll have 60,000 people. Plus, those of us who can't get there, I've got a work commitment on Saturdays, so I can't get along. But be watching on the television, obviously, that we're right behind you. We know you're going to go out there and do us proud. And I mean, it's going to be an amazing experience and an amazing game. So, but thank you for your time, Sam. It's been brilliant. And all the best from the Fezcast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis, and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, our next interview is with the best tattooed player in Saracens, and back from international duty, Marco Riccioni from Italy. How are you, Marco?
Oh, good. Good to be back with the boys and be out there. So it's great. Can't wait for Saturday.
Well, absolutely. Before we do that, we'll have a quick chat about the Six Nations, obviously, because Italy, you had a pretty good tournament. I mean, one win, you probably wanted more, didn't you? But, you know, competitive in all games as well. Even the France game, which went a little bit bad, didn't it? But you were competitive for long periods of the game.
Yeah, no, it was good. I think we just fall a bit in the middle of the Six Nations. We have two games where we didn't actually show up on the second half, and at that level, they're gonna make it fair. So. Yeah, it's been a good tournament. We could be better, but we're on a good way. We're a good team, so also a young team. So we just can't wait to see what the futures brings.
Absolutely, and an interesting yellow card for you in the one game, wasn't it? Well, it took one for the team, I think.
I mean, yeah, I think he just picked one. He saw me. I just looked him in there. I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be me. Yeah, and he gave it to me. But yeah, we actually the week after we got a report from the referees. They say that wasn't a yellow card. I was like, oh, come on.
That's the way it goes. I mean, but back to Saracens now. And I mean, how difficult is it coming back from international duty into club duty? Or is it something that Saracens have got particularly right?
No, actually, when on the week offs, like when I wasn't playing in the Six Nations for 1 week, I came back, so I trained a bit with the team, so so it would be like a bit easier for me, and so it's just great that we came all back together, and we all just take our times and to train and do the new stuff that we have. So yeah, it's for me it's actually easier because I've been in, but I guess for the boys it's going to be a bit harder. But I mean, we're international players, so we have to learn quickly. So yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it looked like today a full-blooded session out there today. Obviously, got the old enemy Quins on the weekend. I mean, it's a game that if you can't get up for that game, you might as well not bother, isn't it?
Yeah, no, we are actually waiting for this game from the minutes after the whistle blow in the last game. It's just bad when you lose against Quins. It just feels bad, and we just want to run it back and give it back to them. So can't wait for Saturday.
Absolutely. Well, last year, obviously, it was a bit of a parade for Saracens, wasn't it? Are you expecting a bit of a harder edge this week? Obviously, nobody ever underestimates the opposition, but I mean, what are you expecting from Quins on Saturday?
I think it's more on us. We just need to focus on us. As I said, we got a couple of things like new shape or new things coming in. So I think the most important things would be just focusing on us and do what we do best. And yeah, if it happens, we're good. And if it doesn't, we just move to the next job. And that's pretty it. I think we're gonna have a good Saturday.
Well, absolutely looking forward to it, Marco. And from yourself personally, I mean, obviously, don't know what the team is now and everything, but what's it like going out in a massive stadium in front of 60,000 people? Tell the people, tell our First Class listeners what it's like to walk out in the Tottenham Stadium.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I played in Twickenham, so it's actually similar. And the stadium itself, the Tottenham Hotspur, is unbelievable. Is unreal for the fan. Is good to be on the stands.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, my next guest on the Fezcast at the training day is Warwick Lang, who is the team manager and head of culture and everything. So it's going to be great to get a different aspect on what goes on this week. But welcome to the Fezcast, Warwick. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks, and yourself. Nice to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. So, Warwick, I mean, I've given you the headlines there. Best tell us, really, in your words, what your role is and how you help facilitate in the club.
It's quite a range variety of jobs that I do. Essentially, it's the operational side of the team and the back office stuff. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got a brilliant team that I work with in the club to make it all possible. But we sort of want to make sure that we deliver first class player experience. You know, from the way we travel to the way we look after players when they're on board at the club to even when they leave the club, you know, what they experience here being a phenomenal experience. And then the culture bit is, I guess, you know, we want to be leading the way on how we look after players and what sort of environment we create at the club. And I've been very lucky that I've learned from the best in the business, I'd say, from Mark McCall and Phil Morrow to having players and legends of the club like Brad Barrett, Neil de Kock, Skulk Brits, you know, who set the way, and players like, you know, Jamie, who continue to live the values and the way this club wants to be.
Well, indeed, I get from your accent there, obviously you're from that end of the world, the Skulk Brits kind of end of the world and everything like that. I mean, what was it, Saracens that brought you to the UK, or was it something that was always in the plans?
I was unbelievably lucky. While I was studying in Stellenbosch in South Africa, I got a part-time job at a local school, and subsequently I started coaching Brendan Fence's kids. And I coached them in under-9 rugby and hockey and cricket, and I grew a love for coaching. And obviously, Brendan being the passionate person he is, he was at every rugby training session, and I developed a brilliant relation with Brendan. And when I finished university, I almost went to go start a job as a sales manager in a furniture store. And he said to me, "Would you like a 3-month unpaid internship at Saracens?" And luckily enough, I took the opportunity, and 12 and a half years later, I'm still here. So very, very lucky.
It does seem to be that way, that you get part of the family here, don't you? And you belong, and it's a huge sense of that. And to the extent that you still get players like, well, Max Malin's coming back next year. And I mean, that's a huge thing. I think that we've dragged him back. I mean, how important is that culture to you and to the club as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant that we've got Max coming back to the club, and as well his parents. I remember the day Max was leaving the club and saw his mom Amanda, and she was gutted, because people's families are just as part of the club as the players. You know, we want to make sure that everybody feels welcome here, to your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sister. We want you to be part of this special place. And that for me was telling. And to have Max and his parents back in the building come the start of July next year will be great to have them back.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to seeing Max back as well. And we remember the video at the end of the final where Mark McCall said that the door was always open. That's very important. Now, just spoke to Sam Spink, talked about the ramping up this week for the showdown on the weekend. I mean, from your point of view, how does this week differ with the biggest domestic game of Saracen season at Tottenham Stadium?
Well, firstly, what the club do to put this game on is phenomenal, you know, from everybody at head office. It's something that the players can get their teeth stuck into great straight away coming off the Six Nations. I think we're very lucky. We got players who are desperate to come back to play for the club. I think playing at a special place like Tottenham Stadium is incredible, and to have it packed out this weekend. I know the players will want to put on a good performance for the club, you know, and it's thank them for all the hard work they've done. And I think it's dead easy to come back into playing the Gallagher Premiership when we've got a fixture like this on our hands against our rivals down the road, Harlequins.
Well, of course, the big thing, you know, is the amount of players coming back from international duty, isn't it? I mean, you see Maro Itoje has had a fantastic tournament as England captain, but Tom Willis is making his, you know, he's an international debut, and established players like Jamie George. How difficult is it bringing those players back into the Saracens' way of doing things when they've been away for 6 weeks with England?
Luckily, these players are very good. So getting them back into doing the things that we do is easy. Obviously, the language they've got to get back to using, but they're pretty experienced and they're brilliant at doing it. And we're just so proud of what the guys did on international duty. You know, to see Tom Willis now playing every Six Nations game for England is like testament to the amount of hard work he's put in. And then to see Jamie reach his 100th cap for England, phenomenal achievement. He's a brilliant friend of mine, and to see him do that was like super emotional and proud moment for the club. So when you got these senior guys back who love the club, to come back is a breeze for them.
It's fantastic to see it. And Warwick, thank you for your time. I think it's been a fantastic insight into what goes on. Have you got a final message for all the fans out there from your point of view?
Yeah, just to make a lot of noise come Saturday, and we can't wait to see you there. And yeah, keep turning up to Stonex, and hopefully we'll make this great story come the end of the season.
Well, thank you, Warwick, for your time.
This is the Fezcast.